Hi friends, good evening. Welcome to Info Club. Today we are going to discuss about eForm INC 4. eForm INC 4 is a form which has to be filed by one person company when there is any change in member or nominee in the company. Okay. Then in today's discussion we are going to cover about what is the purpose of eForm INC4 and what are the section and rule numbers that defines INC4 and how to fill the form INC4. Okay, before going to the purpose of eForm INC4, let us see about what are the sections and rules that covers form INC4. See, as per Companies Act 2013, Section 3, Subsection 1, a company may be formed for any lawful purpose. So, if a group of persons, if they want to form a public company, there should be minimum of 7 members, and there minimum of 7 members, and there will be more than 7 members. If it is a private company, there should be a minimum of 2 members or more. And if it is a one-person company, there will be only 1 member and one director. But that one-person company can be treated as a private limited company. If all those persons, if they want to become the member, what they have to do, they have to first subscribe their names or his name to the memorandum, and they have to comply with the requirements of this act in respect of registration. This act is nothing but Companies Act 2013. So if they want to become the members, they have to subscribe their names or his name to the memorandum, and they also have to comply with the requirements of Companies Act 2013 at the time of registration. Okay, so section 3 subsection says about how many members has to be minimum are present at the time of registration of companies. Okay, then along with that, if a person wants to incorporate a one person company, provided that the memorandum of one person company shall indicate the name of other person with his prior written consent in the prescribed form, who shall, in the event of subscriber death or incapacity to contract, become the member of the company, and written consent of such person shall be also be filed with the registrar at the time of incorporation of one person company along with its memorandum and articles. So what section 3 subsection 1 defines? See, if there is a one person company, if a member wants to incorporate a one person company, first what he has to do, he has to subscribe with the memorandum, and also in the memorandum he has to indicate the name of other person whom he want to nominate as a nominee of the company. So if he want to nominate that person, he has to take a prior written consent from the nominee stating that he is agreeing that he will act as a nominee of the one person company. Why he has to take that written consent, why he has to nominate that nominee? Because in the event of subscriber, that is the member's death, or if in his incapacity to contract, then the nominee will become the member of one person company. So the subscriber or member at the time of incorporation itself, he has to indicate the name of the person who he wants to nominate. Okay, then provided that, so the section further defines what the one person company has to do. Okay, provided further that such other person may withdraw his consent in such manner as may be prescribed. Suppose subscriber has appointed one person as a nominee, and after appointing nominee he is not willing to act as a nominee of the one person company, he wants to withdraw from it. So according to Companies Act 3 subsection 1, he has a right, he can withdraw his consent. Then provided also that the member of one person company may at any time change the name of such other person by giving notice in such manner as may be prescribed. So the subscriber or member is also have a right, at any time or at but with any reason, he doesn't want to specify any reason, with any reason he can remove the nominee's name and can, by giving a notice, and he can appoint some other person as a nominee. Then, provided also that it shall be the duty of the member of one person company to intimate the company the change, if any in the name of other person nominated by him, by indicating in the memorandum or otherwise within such time in the manner as may be prescribed, and the company shall intimate the register as any changes with such time in such manner as may be prescribed. See, in all these points, there may be in such manner as may be prescribed. This will be defined in rules. Rules, that is Companies Incorporation Rules 2014. If you check the rule number 4, then we'll get to know and what is the manner which we have to, in the sense one person company has to file inc 4. Okay, before going to, let's see this one. So it is a duty of the member. So it's the member's duty when there is any change in the one person company, he has to the change intimate the change to the company. Okay, then, and the company has to intimate the change to the registrar. Okay. Then providing also that any such change in the name of person shall not be deemed to be an alteration of memorandum. Suppose if the nominee has given any withdraw consent or the subscriber has changed the nominee, then if there is any cessation and the nominee becomes a member of one person company, what will happen? The company has to intimate to the registrar and there will be a change in the name of the person. Either it may be a member or it may be a nominee. So that change in the person now shall not be deemed to be alteration of memorandum. It doesn't mean that there will be a change there will be an alteration in the memorandum, but you have to intimate the company. The company has to intimate to the ROC stating that there is a change in member or change in the nominee. Okay, so here the section defines all these things and what is the manner and how the company or the nominee or the member has to proceed in this concept. In the sense, when there is a change or if the nominee has to give a withdraw consent, how he has to approach and in what format he has to give. And let's see the rules which defines that. So rule 4 of company incorporation rules 2014, sub rule 4 defines that form inc 4 within 30 days of receipt of notice of withdrawal consent, the company has to file notice with the register in Form INC 4 along with the written consent in Form INC 3 along with the prescribed fees. See, the nominee has a right, he can withdraw his consent. So in suppose for example, if you take x and y, x is a subscriber of one person company and y is the nominee who is appointed by x. But why? After some time, he does not want to be continued as a nominee of one person company. What he will do? He will give a letter that is nothing but withdrawal of consent to the company and also to whom he will give to the subscriber. Then, within receipt of 30 days of that withdrawal consent, what the company needs to be done? The company has to file INC 4 with the ROC. So, in order to file INC 4, the company also needs to attach one more form called INC 3. What is INC 3? It's a written consent given by the nominee. So what the subscriber has to do within 15 days, within 15 days of receipt of what the withdrawal consent from the previous nominee, he has to appoint a new nominee. Before appointing the new nominee, he has to obtain a written consent from the new nominee and it should be there in the form of INC 3. So this INC form 3 has to be attached with INC 4 and the company has to file the INC 4 within 30 days of receipt of notice of withdrawal of consent from the nominee and some prescribed fee has to be paid along with the filing of this INC 4. Then what is the sub rule 5 says? Change of nominee. So if the subscriber or member can change the name of the nominee at any time for any reason after obtaining prior consent of such other person in form INC 3. Suppose the subscriber or member, he doesn't want the previous nominee to continue, so he want to change the nominee. He can change at any time and for any reason. Okay, so when he changed the name of the nominee, then he has to obtain a prior consent, in the sense written consent from a new nominee in the form of INC 3, and he has to intimate the change to the company. Then what the company will do, within 30 days of intimation of such change by the member, then the company has to file INC 4 along with INC 3, that is the written consent of new nominee, with ROC along with the prescribed fee. So in these two situations, if there is any withdrawal of consent which was received from nominee, or if the subscriber has changed the nominee, in both the cases, what the company has to do within such receipt of the intimations or withdrawal consent or the intimation of change of nominee, the company has to file INC 4 along with INC 3, the written consent from new nominee. It has to file INC 4 with ROC with prescribed fee. Okay, then what sub-rule 6 says? Sub-rule 6 says sole member of one person company ceases to be the member in the event of death or incapacity to contract. So suppose the member is there, suppose he has died and he is incapacity to the contract, then what will become? The nominee will become the member of one person company. Once he become the one a member of one person company, the new member, so nominee will be the new member. The new member has to nominate within 15 days of becoming a member, a nominee. So within 15 days of becoming a member, the previous nominee has to nominate one more person as nominee within 15 days. Then what the company has to do? The company has to file with the ROC an intimation of cessation and a nomination in form INC 4 along with the prescribed fee within 30 days of change in membership and with prior consent of person so nominated in form INC 3. See, suppose for example X is there, X is the member or subscriber of the company, Y is the nominee of the company. If suppose X dies, then what will happen? The cessation will occur, and he after death, how he will act or how he will work, then in kind of this kind of situation, while will become the member of the company. Okay, then when the Y will become the member of the company, from that date within 15 days he has to nominate one more person. For example, in this example, Y will nominate Z as nominee of the one person company. So and Y, what the company has to do within 30 days of this change, because X has died and Y became the new member and Y has appointed Z as a nominee. So there are two things happen. One is cessation, in the sense one first previous subscriber or member he died, and then in place of him nominee became the member, and the new member has appointed one more nominee. So there is an appointment of new nominee and there is a cessation of previous subscriber or member. So in INC 4, the company has to file INC 4 along with the consent of new nominee in form INC 3 to the ROC with prescribed fee. So there are three kind of situations when there is a withdrawal consent received from the nominee, or when there is a change of nominee which is done by the subscriber or member by appointing the new nominee, or when there is a cessation of previous member or subscriber. And in those kind of situations, the form INC 4 has to be filed with ROC along with the prescribed fee. Okay, now let's go for what's the purpose. So as per rule, what rule 4, sub rule 456, what it says, any personal withdrawal of consent by the nominee himself. So if the nominee withdraw his consent, then INC 4 has to be filed. And when there is a change in nominee by the member, if the subscriber wants to nominate one other person in place of previous nominee, then also the company has to file eForm INC 4. And in third case, in case of cessation of member due to various reasons, the various reasons may be the death of subscriber or the incapacity of contract by the subscriber, in the sense previous member, then in this case also the company has to file INC 4. Okay, now Let's learn about how to fill the form INC4. Then what are the things that will be there in form INC4? So this is the form INC4. Oh, form INC4 is nothing but one person company, change in member or nominee. What are the sections and rules that will cover this form INC4 is section 3 subsection 1 of Companies Act 2013 and rule 4 sub rule 4 5 6 of Companies Rules Incorporation Rules 2014. Okay, then here form of language will be either based on your language, either it may be English or Hindi. Now this form is for, so we have learned about what is the purpose of this form. So that purpose here they have mentioned: notice of withdrawal of consent by nominee of one person company, intimation about the change in the nominee of one person company, and intimation of cessation. So, based on the situation of the company, either it may be a withdrawal consent from nominee, or it may be a change in name by the member, or it may be a intimation of cessation. For example, in there will be a company where the nominee has the written consent, withdrawal consent, that he doesn't want to be the nominee for further. So he has given one withdrawal consent that I am resigning from this post. Then in such a kind of situation, what we have to do, we have to select this option. If we select this option, so what will happen before that? See, filing form. The company who wants to file the INC4 needs to select the option in the form based on which the serial number 4 to 9 will be displayed. So, in this INC form, there will be serial numbers. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that serial numbers will be there. See, based on the situation, or based on the option you have selected, few of the hidden serial numbers will be open. Okay, so in this case what happened, I have selected this notice of withdrawal consent by the nominee OPC. Okay, so here what will happen, we have to give the sin number of existing one person company, and we have to give prefill. Then the all the details like name of one person company, address, email ID will automatically reflect in this column. Then, so notice of withdrawal of consent by the nominee. Who will give the notice? Nominee will give the notice. Okay, now the serial number 4 has been opened. Now, in notice of withdrawal consent, notice is hereby given that. So, suppose if you take X and Y, X is the subscriber and Y is the nominee. Y nominee, he doesn't want to be continue as a nominee of one person company. He has given the written consent. So, how he will give the notice? So, notice hereby given that Y. Why? Because he is the nominee. Why was nominated as a nominee of, suppose if you say X Limited, X one person company, if it is the X Limited, then you can mention as one person company name here. So notice is here given by that Y was nominated as the nominee of one person company name, has withdrawn his or consent while her or his or her notice dated. So whatever withdraw consent he has given, in the sense the nominee has given, that date has to be mentioned here, and the copy has to be attached along with the file. In the sense, withdrawal consent is nothing from resignation form. So the date of resignation letter and also the copy of the letter has to be attached along with this form. Along with that, so if the previous nominee has been removed, or if he has given resignation, then what the subscriber has to do, he has to appoint a new nominee. So then he has to notify to the company that he is appointing one more member, one more nominee. He has nominated one more nominee. So further notice, this notice is given by the member to the company. So further notice is given by that here his name, the nominee's name of one person company has nominated as his nominee with effect from who shall become the member of company in the event of death or incapacity of the declares that the nominee is eligible for nomination within the meaning of rule 3 of incorporation rules 2014. So this intimation is given by the member, and he will appoint that some other person as nominee instead of the previous nominee. Okay, so here further notice is that member's name is a member of one person company has nominated so and so person and as his nominee, and with the effect from the date who shall become the nominee of the company in the event of his or death of his or her incapacity to contract, he or she declares that the name is eligible for nomination within the meaning of rule 3 of companies incorporation rules 2014. So if the nominee has given the withdrawal consent, the serial number 4 and 7 will open stating that serial number 4 is the notice given by the nominee, and serial number 7 is intimation about the change of nominee by the subscriber to the company. Then, what are now in all the situations, what will happen? The previous nominee will um, the previous nominee will what he will do, he will either he will resign or he will be removed from his post. So then new nominee will be appointed. So the new nominee details has filled with the form inc 4. Here what are the particulars of nominee has to be filed, that is a new nominee. So if he is having a din number, the din number has to be filled here, and if you give the pre-fill, all the details will come off which are relating to director's identification number. And if he is not having a director identification number, then income tax number, account number of that particular nominee has to be given, and that PAN number has to be verified. Then his first name, surname, father's, mother's, or spouse name which he wants to give, and the gender of the nominee, nationality, date of birth, place of birth, educational qualification, occupation type, whether the nominee is a self-employed, professional, homemaker, or student, serviceman has to be mentioned, and permanent address of the residential address of the nominee has to give, and present address has to be give. If both are same in the sense, you have to click yes. And if different addresses are there, then for the present address, duration of stay has to be mentioned, and proof of identity and residential proof. If they are giving PAN as a proof of identity, they have to mention PAN as here, and the PAN copy has to be attached. And if they are giving residential proof as electricity bill, then electricity bill has to be mentioned, and the copy of electricity bill has to be attached here. Okay, so what are the attachments? If the nominee has given a withdrawal consent, then we have to select that option consent of what is that option, notice of withdrawal of consent by the nominee, and then all these attachment has to be attached. One is consent of nominee in form inc3. This is the consent form which is given by the new nominee to the subscriber, and then copy of the PAN card of new nominee. So new nominee's PAN card has to be attached, proof of identity of new nominee has to be attached, and residential proof of new nominee has to be attached with along with this form. Along with all these four, notice of withdrawal of consent filed by the nominee has to be attached with inc 4. Because this form, in this case we are going to file inc 4 because the company has received and the subscriber has received a withdrawal consent or a resignation from the nominee himself. So the notice of withdrawal of consent to be filled by the nominee, that notice has to be attached with inc 4. If you see, attachment 1, 2, 3, 4 will be common in the three cases, but attachment 5 will differ in all the cases. Then the digital signature of the member and digital signature, in this case what will happen, director and member will be the same, but here what will happen, if there is any ceo or cfo then or a company secretary, then their PAN number or their designation has to be mentioned, and their digital DSC has to be attached. Okay, so now first option is done. What is a notice of withdrawal of consent by the nominee of OPC is done. Suppose in one more case, if the subscriber or member want to change the name of the nominee of one person company. So if the subscriber himself wants to change the name of the nominee, then in that kind of case what we have to select, or the person who is filing form inc for what he has to select, this option he has to select intimation about change in the name of one person company. So in this sin number we have to give, and then all these details will automatically pop up, like name of one person company, address of register office of company, and email id of the company. Here if you observe, in previous option, if you select the previous, first option, notice of withdrawal concern, the serial number 4 and 7 has been opened. If you select the second option, intimation about change in the name of nominee, the serial number 5, 4 and 7 is not didn't appear, and 5 had been appeared. So what is 5? Intimation about the change in nomination. So who will give the intimation about the change in nomination? The subscriber or member of the company will give to the company the change in nomination intimation. Okay. Notice hereby given that here the name of the member of the name of the company has nominated the new nominee's name, and based on intimation he will give the intimation on which date he has appointed. That intimation date he will give here as or his nominee in place of. Here what he has to mention, previous nominee's name he has to enter, and who shall become the member of company in the event of his or her death, or in his incapacity to contract, he or she declares that the nominee is eligible for nomination within the meaning of rule 3 of companies incorporation rules 2013. So this kind of intimation he has to give, he has to fill all these details, and along with that, he in this situation also, in this case also, there will be a new nominee. So new nominee details has to be filled, what we have learned as in the previous option. The same thing, it has to be the, if there is a new nominee, the details has to be filled in that. And attachments also the same, consent of nominee form inc3, new nominee will have to be taken from new nominee, and copy of pan card of new nominee, proof of identity of new nominee, residential proof of new nominee. Along with that, copy of intimation given by the member for change in nominee. So in previous case, what is the attachment, extra attachment is this notice of withdrawal of consent by filed by the nominee. But in this case, copy of intimation given by member for change in nominee. So in this case, the intimation given by member has to be attached, but in previous case, then withdrawal consent given by nominee has to be attached. Okay, then here members DSC, members director identification name, and if there is any CEO, CFO, or any company secretary, their designation, their DIN numbers or PAN number, and their DSC has to be attached. Now secondary option is also done. Let's move on to third option, intimation of cessation. So if you select intimation of cessation, what will happen? See, 4 and 7 serial number, it appeared for notice of withdrawal consent given by the nominee. If you select that option, the serial number 4 and 7 has been appeared. In second option, what happened? Intimation about change in the change in the name of the nominee of OPC. Only fifth option has been appeared. That is intimation about change in nomination. But if you select the third option, intimation of cessation, what options will serial numbers will appear? Intimation of cessation of member, and intimation about the change of nominee. So these two serial numbers has been appeared. Okay. Now what will happen here, we have to give the SIN number, so all details will pop up. And then in intimation of cessation of member, intimation is hereby given that, so here previous member, in the sense old member name has to be entered, has ceased to be the member of one person company's name with effect from this, from the date of cessation, due to, we have to mention the reason, whether he has died or he is incapacity to contract, that kind of reason he has to, here has to be mentioned. And the person, the nominee, he will become the member, no, because of the incapacity to contract or death of the previous member, so the nominee's name has to be entered, and here member has become the sole member of the above mentioned company. So here we'll give the nominee's name, and nominee has become the sole member. Here we have to mention nominee so that he has become the sole member of above mentioned company. So this intimation has to be given, and along with that intimation about the change of name also has to be given by the company. That further notice is given by that the person, in the sense the new nominee, the new member, and new member name. Here member, here you have to mention of one person company's name. Here has nominated, the new nominee's name has to be mentioned here as his nominee with effect from the date on which the new nominee has been appointed. Here we have to mention. So he shall become the member of the company in the event of his or her death or his or incapacity to contract. He or she declares that the nominee is eligible for nomination within the meaning of Rule 3 of Companies and Corporation Rules 2014. So here the new member has to intimate the company about the change of nominee. Since new nominee's name has to be mentioned in this column. Then so in this case also there is a change in name of the nominee. So the new nominee details has to be filled here as I said previously. So all the things will be same. So the new nominee details has to be filled. Then along with that new nominee details, one more column, I mean one more serial number also opened in this, that is 9 particulars of the new member. So who is the new member? The old nominee will be the new member. So his details again we need to give: his DIN number, income tax PAN number, his name, education qualification, place of birth, permanent address, present address, his duration of stay in present address, proof of identity, and residential proof. So here what are the new things we have to enter, I mean what are the things we have to enter in intimation of cessation? One is intimation of cessation of the member, and then intimation about the change of nominee, and also particulars of new member has to be entered. So what are the attachment that need to be attached with INC4 in this intimation of cessation? If we select the option, then the intimation of nominee, new nominees, written consent form INC 3 has to be obtained, PAN card of new nominee and also new member. In this case, what will happen? In previous case, only if the PAN card of nominee, if we give, that will be enough. Proof of identity and residential proof of nominee, if you new nominee, if you give, it will be enough for both the cases, like notice of withdrawal consent and also intimation of change of nominee. But in intimation of cessation, what will happen? We have to attach the PAN card copy of new nominee and also new member, proof of identity of new nominee and also new member, residential proof of the new nominee and also new member. So both the nominee and new nominee, new members details has to be, in this sense copies of PAN number and proof of identity, residential proof has to be attached along with that proof of cessation of member. So the reason stating that whether it is a death, if in case of death, the death certificate of the previous member has to be attached. So based on the proof of cessation of member, that proof has to be attached along with form INC 4. So digital signature of the member, his DIN number, and if there is any CEO or CFO, then DIN number or income tax PAN number, it has to be mentioned, and DSC has to be attached. Now, so let's see you difference. It is like if you select the option 1, notice of withdrawal consent, then serial number 4 and 7 will open. That is notice of withdrawal of consent and intimation about the change of the nominee. Then here the extra attachment that has to be done is notice of withdrawal of consent filed by the nominee. In all these 3 cases, the first 4 will be common. And then in intimation of change of the nominee, here if you select this option, then only serial number 5, intimation about change in nomination, will appear. Then here in attachment, copy of intimation given by member has to be attached. If you select the third option, intimation of cessation, what will happen? Only serial number 6, 7 and 9 will appear. 6 is nothing but intimation of cessation of member, 7 is nothing but intimation about the change of nominee, and 9 is the particulars of new member. So here what we have to attach? We have to attach the proof of cessation of member. Along with it, here the copy of PAN card, proof of identity and residential proof of both new nominees and new member has to be attached. Okay. So this is the form INC4. So after attaching all these forms, generally what we have to do, we have to check the form. Okay, we have to click on check the form after filling all these details, and before signing the document with DSC. First we have to check the form. So in case if there is any mandatory fields which is not filled, then when you give the check form, that dialog box will appear stating that this mandatory field is not filled. Then after giving this, what will happen after check form, then there will be no errors, it will come. What we have to do, then we have to attach the DSC, and then we have to give pre-scrutiny. So if there is no errors, then message will display stating that there are no pre-scrutiny errors. So if you after check giving check form or after giving pre-scrutiny, you can, if you want to make any changes in the form, you can give modify, click on the option modify, and you can modify the details which are entered in this form. So after filling all this details, we have to log in into the MCA website, and in that MCA website, in the eForms option, upload eForms option, you have to upload, and you have to file the option by file the form by paying the prescribed fee. Thank you.